Would you call yourself a people pleaser? Well, now, first of all, what does that even mean? Obviously, the definition varies, but one thing is for sure, it is not a personality flaw, and it doesn't mean that you're just a doormat for others. So, if you're not sure what it means, we have the answers. And when I say we, I mean we're joined this afternoon by Sara Lewis, who is the author of Purposeful People Pleasing, Changing Your Perspective, Not Your Personality. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
That's pretty good to get that tongue twister in there.
That was a whole bunch in there at one time. So, what is your definition of a people pleaser?
Can I flip it around first and ask you what you think when you hear that term?
What I think a people pleaser is. What do I think a people pleaser is? Well, I guess there's two different kinds. I guess the first one I would think of would be the one who wants to please others at whatever cost to themselves. And then the other one would be somebody that just works hard to give somebody what they want.
Good. I think you're coming out with what I call the cultural definition, which is kind of negative in a way, in that you could be thought of as a doormat doing anything for anybody just to get a reward, whether it's thanks or money or whatever.
Right.
I like to flip that around, and that's what my book does, is take the notion that people pleaser is a negative thing. If you look on Amazon, the titles that are out there, it's called a disease to please. It's, as you said earlier, a personality flaw, something that needs to be corrected. I see it from, let's say, a biblical view, that it's more of a spiritual gift. It's the way you were created. And if you are trying to change your personality instead of your perspective, you end up being a very unhappy person. So I looked into motivation, and when you study what psychologists categorize motivation, it's really two areas, external and internal. You're either motivated externally for a reward, or maybe the opposite of that, for fear of punishment. You could be acting either way. The internal is more of just a personal satisfaction, or how you feel emotionally about doing something.
Tell me about your book.
Okay, well, this is one of the things I get to early on.
Okay, all right. Purposeful people, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead. Is that there's a third area of motivation that we need to consider, and it's eternal. What's my legacy going to be? Am I people pleasing for some immediate enabling somebody who's bad behavior, or some kind of personal reward? In motivation, I guess, would be to have your people pleasing be something that is healthy. And what you want is healthy.
Yeah. So what do you think some misconceptions are about people pleasers or people pleasing? Why both?
Well, I think when people look at the term, they see it as doing for everybody else and putting yourself down, putting your own needs on the back burner. And I think we're learning, as we come into more enlightenment, that we also need to fulfill ourselves. And so one of the issues, though, that comes up in this is there's so many books written on the term boundaries. I kind of like the word perimeters better. Boundaries, I think, is very harsh. I'm in here, you're out there. But with perimeters, I believe that you can go outside of those borders.
It's a little more
You're
flexible.
not only keeping others out, but you're expanding into others' territory and maybe encouraging, helping them in a positive way. So I avoid the term boundaries in my book, but one of the terms that I introduce that may not be familiar to a lot of people is the servant's heart. And I'll tell you how I came to write the book. I was just having a simple conversation with my granddaughter. She was coaching a volleyball team at her middle school, and she said, "Oh, Graham, I'm such a people pleaser. I did such and such with my girls. I let them have a banana split instead of some healthy food, and I need to change that. And at the time, I was writing for some devotional publications, and I said, Anna, that's a great devotional. Let's write one together. Well, I went to bed that night, and the popcorn thoughts just hit me. And finally, I got up at 3:14, and I said, okay, I can't go back to sleep. I wrote for 2 hours. So the next morning, I called Anna, and I said, this is not a devotion, it's a book. And so she's kind of collaborated with me on it, but she exhibited what I call the cultural view, that
Right.
it's something I need to change, not to embrace. So as I began to kind of study and look at it, from my point of view as a Christian, we are given spiritual gifts.
Uh-huh.
People pleasing is a desire to serve others, to help others.
Which is not a bad thing.
It's not. And serving is one of the main spiritual gifts. Therefore, people pleasing is a spiritual gift. So,
okay, how can we get your book?
it is on Amazon.
Okay.
It is in local bookstores. It's Barnes & Noble, Bethany Beach Books, Capriccio Books, which is a brand new little store in Berlin.
Okay.
I mean, Ocean Pines.
Right.
And Greyhound, which is a lovely indie bookstore in Berlin. Locally, online, most of those places, in the libraries, the Eastern Shore Libraries, Talbot, Dorchester, all the way down to Somerset, you should be able to ask for a copy and get one. You might not be able to get it right away. It's in the interlibrary loan, but it's available. But Amazon, it's even on Kindle, so
Sarah,
makes it easy.
I'll get it on my Kindle, that's for sure. Sara Lewis, Purposeful People Pleasing, Changing Your Perspective, Not Your Personality. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for stopping
Thank
by
you.
this afternoon. Oh my goodness, what a great book.